Greetings and welcome to SoberDwarf. As you can probably tell, things look a bit different, a bit barren. And that's because I'm moving. And moving takes both time and effort. You gotta take things and put them into boxes and carry them all the way to somewhere, then start taking them out of the boxes. It didn't really leave me with a whole lot of time to make a video. If I had the foresight, I probably could have done a thematically appropriate video like Animal Crossing or The Sims, but I didn't. But I also didn't feel like leaving you with nothing this month, so let's do something different. Something lazy. Strategy guides. Did I say that cool enough? Alright. They are probably the unsung heroes of gaming culture. It's hard to figure out when exactly the idea of giving someone a guide of how to beat your game became a viable business model. My guess is probably around the same time that the Game Counselor hotline from Nintendo was making mad bank off of telling people how to beat Milon's Secret Castle. But regardless, strategy guides have almost always been a part of gaming culture. In fact, I've always kind of had a soft spot for strategy guides. If I had more of a disposable income, I'd probably collect guides more than I would collect games. And there's a pretty decent collector's market for these books as well. However, most of what you see here are guides I either purchased when I got the game, or they're rare discoveries of thrift shops or closing game stores. There's just something always nostalgic about opening a strategy guide and reading about the game, even if you weren't playing it at the time. You could kind of think of it as the book form of a Let's Play. And I can't be alone either, because strategy guides are still a very popular inclusion for video games. Even as early as 1995, game FAQs more or less killed the need to purchase a strategy guide. Even now you can get far more information from a dedicated wiki, or better yet, just watch someone how to do it on YouTube. Yet, strategy guides still persist, and that's both crazy and comforting to me. And I think that alone warrants a deeper look at them. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Alright, first up we have the Nintendo Player's Guides. Right now we're looking at GoldenEye. You know, it always kind of looked like he has just a giant mouth right there. It's kind of one of those things, once you see it, you can't really unsee it. You're welcome for that. Anyway, as you would expect, these were published by Nintendo for Nintendo published games. It's kind of a first-party strategy guide. They actually started off as an offshoot of Nintendo Power. Back when they were a bi-monthly magazine, I believe every other month instead of a magazine, they would just release a strategy guide. Their magazine covered Nintendo-related releases on Nintendo consoles, written by Nintendo with Nintendo agendas. Nintendo. But as their market expanded, Nintendo started publishing these for specific games. I remember that they would offer them usually with a subscription to Nintendo Power magazine. Like, you would buy the game, they would come with this kind of pamphlet. This one's for Pokemon Snap. And they would just have this offer of, okay, well, hey, you got the game. For only $20, you can also get the strategy guide. And you would also get a subscription to Nintendo Power. So, actually not a bad deal. I remember getting this for, I believe, Super Mario RPG, but they never gave me my guide because I guess I used an old sign-up sheet that they didn't really have guides anymore. It's really disappointed. You'd also get the strategy guides from pack-in bonuses, like they would supply it for Earthbound and Mystic Quest, usually RPGs, because they were really wanting to push that market. As for the guides themselves, they're alright. I mean, you can expect that the quality is really good. Really good stock of paper, usually full color, good information, very well designed. However, if you weren't a fan of Nintendo Power's style of writing, that is kind of very prevalent here. Nintendo Power always kind of, to me at least, had this homogenized blur of family-friendly, sort of goofy style, and that's mostly how these were written. I mean, granted, they were usually meant for people who've never really played a video game or meant for children, but you kind of, after reading it, kind of get tired of that style, so... And they usually don't include too many extras with these. Like, Paper Mario here has like a bestiary and a lot of badges, but, you know, you're not looking to find any interviews with developers or anything like that. It's almost strictly the strategy guide, so... But as for what they're supposed to do, just be a strategy guide, they do it well enough. But unfortunately, you won't find any of these guides being released nowadays. In 2007, Nintendo just quietly discontinued the official player's guides. And I think Nintendo Power switched to a different publisher, and eventually Nintendo Power no longer existed as a physical form. Any official Nintendo strategy guide you see now will most likely be from Prima strategy guides. Speaking of Prima, or Prima depending on how you prefer to say it, here we are. As you can tell, this is a strategy guide for the Pokemon trading card game. You can tell, officially Nintendo licensed product, if it will autofocus. There we go. Made by Prima. Chances are Prima guides are what you think of when you think about strategy guides. If I remember right, it started off as a very small company in California out of someone's house, and it grew into what it is today. The guides themselves were pretty mixed in quality in the early days. And I do mean mixed. As you can kind of tell, this one looks pretty decent. Nice pictures, good information there. However, sometimes you're going to have a full color guide like that, or, you know, in the case, Perfect Dark, you know, maps, well designed, kind of just tell by looking at it. Yeah, you know, that's very passable as a strategy guide. But then you would also have guides like this, which is... Oh god. Oh my... What? Oh. You know, not very well laid out, not good design, not very well written. This is probably the more extreme example of it, but yeah, just to kind of show you the difference in quality that you would get in a Prima guide. Sometimes you get like detailed information, and even with this, it comes with extras. Occasionally you get like this one, for instance, comes with the timeline of the entire Resident Evil, when this was made at least. So Resident Evil 1 through 3. But you really weren't sure what you're going to get either way, so... But now they're a bit more consistent, especially since a shift in 2009, I think, when their guides started focusing more on in-depth strategies that you would find on like wikis, and started working more closely with developers. And I think because of that, you know, that's the reason why they became the biggest publisher, having merged with the other biggest publisher, Brady Games, I think in early June 2015. And what do you know, I got a bunch of Brady game guides right here. And I'll be honest, in the whole Brady versus Prima, I was always a bigger fan of Brady Games guides. Whereas Prima always had a problem with consistency, Brady Games were almost always consistent. They always had full color, they always had good writing, a great design. and a lot of extra information. They're probably most familiar to RPG fans since they almost always covered the big RPGs like the Final Fantasy series. But with the power of editing magic, I now have Versus books in my hands. And I don't know if you've heard of Versus books. I don't really hear them talk too much about when it comes to strategy guides, which is unfortunate because they're probably my favorite publisher's strategy guides. They're what they called quote-unquote perfect guides, just had a crazy amount of information in them. I mean, they have charts, have like pictures, just, oh man, I love these guides. They always did such a good design, good job. They even had cool things like this, like for instance, this is the Phantasy Star Online strategy guide, but they just went out of their way to like talk about all the old Phantasy Star enemies on here. Just be like, oh hey, these are where this is from. It's such a great touch, and I always love these kinds of guides. And they did that for like almost every other guide. They always talked about stuff like that. And just the design is really well too. I mean, compare this very well used Perfect Dark guide compared to the Prima one, and just on the cover itself you can tell, like, look, you get the in my stand, get the reflective text, you get it's a little embossed, whereas this is just kind of, you know, very even the back is just, they had a lot of pride in that. You know, 3D rendered maps on this compared to the little graphs, just, oh, these were excellent, and I wish I could just collect all these. There's also Piggyback, which is a publisher I'm not too familiar with. Crap. Oh god. Oh, jeez. They're usually known for making these collector's edition style strategy guides. And this is really the first one I got, which is the Metal Gear Solid 5s. And I managed to get this for 99 cents, just kind of found it at a place that was liquidating all their books, and this just happened to be along with it. And holy crap, am I impressed with these. I don't know if all their strategy guides are like this, because this is the only one I own. However, they do such an excellent job at going through everything of the game. Like, there's not an aspect of this game that they haven't touched on. They have a, let's see, yeah, a foreword by Hideo freaking Kojima himself. Go in and talk about the timeline, like in depth, like this whole back section's just dedicated to this. Holy crap, these maps, just, oh man, these are highly excellent quality. At least this one is. Again, it's the only one I own of this, but if their guides are always like this, I'm probably going to be looking into them more, because holy crap. Then finally you would have your more niche strategy guide publishers like Double Jump Books, who I think did mostly Atlas and NIS games and these smaller form factor books. And if you like Disgaea as much as I do, because, you know, you are a sadist and just like a bunch of numbers and charts and all this information to digest, you'll really like these books because they go in depth with them. Look at that. Can't even tell what that chart is talking about, but it's just information. And that's kind of how the games are there. But the only problem is that the way, in terms of actual strategy, like trying to beat the game, this factor, the smaller design, doesn't really work because there's not a whole lot of information to give you. It just more or less assumes that you're wanting this guide because you want to get the secrets of the game and learn how to power level your characters, or, you know, freaking deal crap tons of damage. Look at that. It's like Hero Clicker or something. But anyway, these guides are well enough. It's just something that if you're, I don't know if they're still making these or not. I don't know if Double Jump Books is still around. But just something to think of when you're looking at if you happen to find these and want to keep them for yourself. But really, I just want to take this opportunity to show off some of the more unique designs of strategy guides, at least the ones I own. I'm sure there's plenty more out there that I haven't seen. This is Prima's the official Pokemon Pokédex for Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, which I believe is 4th generation Pokemon. And this is more or less not a strategy guide per se. I don't quite know. There might be... Yeah, it looks like there is a section for Diamond and Pearl, but as you can tell, that was a very small section. Really what this is just a compendium of Pokemon knowledge just gathered up and put there. Like, for instance, looking over here, we have just list of the moves Pokemon can learn. Charts, there's my favorite Snorlax, 143 represent. But, just more information. Just a lot of information, holy crap. And more information you really know what to do with. More than you can keep in your head, so that's why you would buy this and keep it on your shelf. Just has something to look at in case you want to know what all the moves do, their power, their effects, what their range is. Essentially anything that you can know about Pokemon. Even the contest moves. It's been a long time since I played Pokemon, so I'm not even sure what that is anymore. So you get Pokemon weakness lookup. Yeah, this is usually why people buy guides, I think, at least in terms of not buying them to beat the game per se, but just to have all this information available to you. Next we have the Final Fantasy Chronicles strategy guide from Brady Games, and it looks like a pretty standard strategy guide for Final Fantasy IV, a game of which I bought like 6 times now, beaten over 20 times, and have no reason to own a strategy guide for, so I pretty much write a strategy guide on it myself. However, that's not kind of why I'm showing this off. It's because, alright, so Chronicles, alright, so, also covers Chrono Trigger, but, oh, my world is flipped upside down, it's a strategy guide for Chrono Trigger. Yeah, no, I mean, not necessarily mind-blowing, but just a really cool design I thought was worth showing off. So, yeah. Then we have the Street Fighter Anniversary Collection Strategy Guide, which I want to say if you have any interest in learning any fighting game competitively, especially Street Fighter 3, this is the guide to own. I don't know if you can tell, if I can get it not super blurry. You might not even recognize some of these names, but I believe Joey Culier is Mr. Wizard, Mark Rogoyski is Mopreme, and Adam Dietz is Kamui, which if you follow Evo or competitive Street Fighter at all, that is pretty impressive. They are professional competitive Street Fighter players. And because of that, this guide has so much information. It's absolutely insane. Just like, whereas most fighting game guides will just, kind of go over the move sets, opportunities to use them. These talk about these in like competitive terms. Like, let's see. Let's go over to Akuma. Right here, we'll zoom back in. You can get it all blurry. Come on. There we go. All that information right there tells you the frame information, how long it takes to start up, how you guard it, how you parry it. It talks about the uses. It tells you about your low kick. Goes just ridiculous amount of information. Just basic information that you would not need to know unless you're playing it competitively. But it also gives you combos, all the super arts that you do, what they're used for, information about them. Talks about their strategy, their wake-up games. Oh man, this is so much information that would not be digestible to anyone unless you're looking to be competitive. But if you're looking to be competitive, even if it's not specifically Street Fighter 3, it's still a wealth of information worth having. This is probably the best, hands down, book for any fighting game. And on the opposite spectrum of strategy guides, we have the Brady Games Final Fantasy IX strategy guide. And this guide is pretty infamous for one reason among strategy guide enthusiasts, and that's because Square tried to do something a bit different. Now, normal strategy guide, like, let me compare this to... Where is it? Yeah, come here. Look. Now, this is Final Fantasy VIII strategy guide. And you can tell there's a thickness discrepancy right there. And that's mainly because of one reason. This functions as a normal strategy guide. You get your list, your whole point by point how to get stuff. However, here's a big issue. Whereas normally a strategy guide would give you the secrets and try to tell you how to play the game, you'll notice these little sidebars on the side. These are the enhanced by play online keywords. So if you want to know something, rather than just read it up on the strategy guide, figuring out, okay, well, oh, I can do this, you have to go online, go to playonline.com, which, by the way, no longer exists anymore, at least not for this purpose. Type in a keyword, then find out what the heck that information's supposed to be. What the crap? Oh, what? Why? Why would you do this? That is, I mean, I understand why they did it. It's probably to save on paper or just put out the strategy guide first and update all this stuff later, but this is absolutely the worst strategy guide of all time, at least for an RPG. There's like absolutely no information in here. It's just, oh man. You can't even use the keywords anymore. So this strategy guide is not even providing any more information that you could get on. In fact, you're going to be online anyway. Why not just go to Game FAQs? Why go through the trouble of finding the keyword and putting in it? Get out of here. And finally, we have the Shenmue strategy guide from Prima. And, you know, the strategy section's pretty standard, especially for Prima. It's really useful to have if you're looking for 100%. Let me try that again. It's really useful to have if you're looking for 100% completion, and it has nice information about, you know, all the characters, all the scenes. You go in the back, it tells you about the mini games, all the items. Overall, really nice strategy guide, but that's not really one I want to talk about. This guide, what makes this guide so unique and special to me is information on the characters. And, you know, yeah, most strategy guides have the whole, okay, here's the main characters, here's information about them. Yeah, well, so what? So what, SoberDwarf? Big deal. I'm not talking about this. I'm not talking about the main characters. I'm talking about every single character in the freaking game. Holy crap, guys. I mean, seriously, every NPC in Shenmue has a small section in this strategy guide. This is crazy. This is absolutely insane that they would have this information in there. What's even crazier is I believe that Yu Suzuki probably did give each character all this information and just left it in, let it play out in game. There's no way you would get this information in the game, so that's just what happens. I mean, you get their role, their gender, age, height, blood type, zodiac sign, daily routine. This is... and there's like whole sections of their personality. Like, look. What? Oh, man. I love this guy. That makes this guide my favorite, honestly. It's just insane of how much detail went into Shenmue, and this guide just even supplements that further. This is the first guide I've read that actually made the game I'm playing more enjoyable because of this. Like, if you just like, oh, hey, well, I see this random guy. I wonder what his backstory is. Oh, look, you lost his wife, and now he's just spending all of his day in the district trying to... what the... this guide is perfect. And that's really it. I apologize if this video isn't up to my normal standards, but it did give me a chance to look at a pretty unappreciated aspect of video games. Once this move is finished, I'll definitely have a return to form, but in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed yourself. And who knows, if my strategy guide collection continues to grow, maybe we can revisit this and look at even the more crazier strategy guides out there. But until then, this is SoberDwarf reminding you that gaining experience builds character. And thanks for watching. Hey, thanks for sticking through the end of the video. If you would like to see better produced videos, check out my SoberDwarf series. I have one video explaining why gaining experience builds character, and another saying why you should be playing more bad games. Also, feel free to write in the comments how many mistakes I made, because I know there's plenty.